Good afternoon, guys. This is the lunch break show, and today we have a special guest. We have an author, Mr. Molefhi Kannemeyer Obenne, who's the author of this book. Where is it? Oh yeah, there it is. So today we're just going to break it down, get to hear some of the interesting stories that he mentioned in the book. And Mr. Molf, you can introduce yourself.
I think I've already introduced myself, man.
No, just a brief.
Yes, like you alluded, Molefhi Kannemeyer Obenne, an author of Botswana Football, Fool's Paradise, is a book that I released last year, 2019. You know, the book it just talks about my football life, you know, where I come from and where I am right now. I think maybe the other thing that I should also note is I'm a club and a football academy owner. And I'm also a national course director for Botswana National Sports Olympic Committee sports administration courses. And I also work as a resident analyst, should I say, at Yarna FM on the Sunday Soccer Show. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then onto the book. Can you break it down as to what the book entails? What is it about?
Like I said, you know, the book entails my football life in essence, where I started and also where I am, and then where the football is in our country. You know, I started to relate with maybe what you call your historic moments there, where I spoke of how we used to perceive football back in the days, and we still have the same people who think those things that they used to do in the past that are still applicable now. They forget that we need to transit, and I think that's one thing that has also taken our football a big backward, if you know what I'm saying. And then I also alluded to my hustles as a sport entrepreneur, I would say. You know, where I spoke of my journey with e-ticketing. You know, how we started the idea, and then along the way, how then the idea was snapped, I would say, stashed, you know, just brought down to the ground. You know, and I also spoke passionately because, you know, having or owning a football academy and then having Palapao Stars, you know, as a club that I admire so much. Even though I own that club, but I still admire the club. I admire, you know, the players that I found there. You know, Palapao Stars was a development project, and I look at the players that we have grown over the years, and I look at the players that we have currently. And, you know, I realize that, you know, most of the youth in our country, they're not really taken care of. You know, people come and they'll pretend as if they have the best interest of those kids. Well, in essence, they don't have. And I usually say our kids are helpless and helpless youngsters in football. And, you know, I touched a bit about the various cases that prevailed in our country with various and then variation in judgment when dealing with those cases. And, you know, and I also spoke of football people being your drunkards. You know, you'll agree with this person today about something. The next day they have changed. You'll be like, but I was with this guy and we agreed on this thing. It's like now the person, you know, when you're talking to him, he was drunk and today he's sobered up and he doesn't realize where he was the previous day. So that's why now I preferred to some of the footballer people as drunkards.
Oh, okay. And then looking at the current landscape of our football, where would you say we are in terms of the structure? How would you best define our current landscape?
You know, I have to be honest. The leadership that we currently have, they have tried. You know, they did what they had to do. The previous regime also, they did what they have to do. You know, everyone have contributed to the growth of football in our country. You know, I'm not a messiah and I'm not a magic maker. You know, I look at what those guys have done, and I always appreciate what those guys have done. I would appreciate what the current regime is doing, the previous regime is doing. But you know, when I don't politicize things now, when I talk football holistically. I would say, sometimes we grow, sometimes we don't. Today we'll move 2 steps forward, tomorrow is 3 steps backward. So, there isn't that much of growth, if you know what I'm saying, but we usually move inches. It looks promising today, tomorrow it's something else. So it's more like, the progress is very minute. I usually call our football a cul-de-sac. Remember a cul-de-sac. A cul-de-sac only has one outing. You'll think you have started something, and then you go as you thought you're gonna go to the other side. At that circle, you come back again, and that's our football, and that's how it has always been. Today we'll vote in a new president. Will be like, it's a fresh breath of air, and then with everything that the president has promised, that we will feel that this is a great start. But as we go on, there will be a stumbling block as we try to progress during this trajectory, and then we're gonna come back again and find ourselves at the starting point again. So with that, over the years, I wouldn't say there hasn't been much of progress, but rather, yes, of course, we have tried to move a bit. I'll give you an example. In terms of youth development, I'll have to be honest with you.
Yeah.
For the past 2 years, it has been stagnant. It has been stagnant. That one I have to be brutal about it, because, for example, from where I'm coming from, as Palaposters, we had to take a stand and say, we are going to have a tri-nation model where we're going to send our kids to South Africa, to Lesotho, to play with other guys that side, because locally at our region, there is no youth development league. The last time we had the youth development league was maybe 2006, 2007 there. But then where do these kids play? And, these are the guys who feed your senior national team. Development is a progress. Once you miss 2 years of not developing, or once you miss 2 years of not giving these kids a chance, it says to you, you are going back 5 years backwards now, instead of you going a few steps forward. Someone will talk of, no, we had under 20, we had under 17, but where is our under 13, where is our under 15? There are no competitions at the regional level. It has. But we took a stand as Palaposters and say, we'll keep continuing playing these youngsters within Botswana and also outside the country. So that's my viewpoint. That's my viewpoint where I'm seated with regards to our football development.
And then also in the book, you mentioned some of the strained relationships that you have with different football administrators. How would you, or what would you say, football administration, how does it contribute to the success of different clubs that we have?
It plays
it?
it plays a pivotal role. Administration is the backbone of our football. Well, for example, when we came with the e-ticket system, because I was schooling in South Africa for the longest time, we had this discussion with guys at our house one day, and we orchestrated that company, as a company where whoever wants to come in, they can come in and be shareholders. But when we brought the idea, it looked like a brilliant idea. But the admin at the time, they were not receptive of the idea. If you have 10 people and only 2 people are of the idea, Botswana is a democratic country. So it means, the 8 will win and the 2 will lose, regardless of whether the idea is good or bad. Majority rules, and that's democracy for you. It doesn't matter whether you have a brilliant idea or a lot of people agree with you, but if you have the voting power, those with the voting power, they will vote for what they think is right. And I had a lot of guys that I interacted with during this e-ticket thing. To me, it was not about me. It was about football. We say we want to promote transparency. We want to promote accountability. We want the clubs to account for money. We want the clubs' money to be safe. Taban, you have been there. Township Rollers versus Sunday Chiefs. On 2 occasions, money was stolen at the gate. You'll have guys there, team officials, but already 6-pack, they will put Madimuri patents up on. But we were saying, we have an agreement with Engine. Engine had said they are offering us a convenience service. You'll be able to buy your ticket at Engine 24 hours, anytime you want. And then we're still working on other online platforms to be able to have people buying tickets at their own convenience, at their fingertips, because we also said it's a ticket at your fingertips. That's what we had. But you look at the administrators that we found there at the time, you could see that this guy is not interested in what Molefhi is trying to bring. He's not interested in the solution, but rather he's interested in what he himself is going to gain out of this. To a point where now this guy will look at small things that you believe these small things can be fixed. He's going to make it a big thing so that you fail. Unfortunately, I'm not a politician. I'm not someone who's petty. And then if someone brings something that is so small, to me, that's pettiness. And I'll not pay attention to that. I have to go out defend that. But, sometimes in English, they say, avoid a fool to prevent the noise, and that's what we did. If for them it was not for the benefit of the majority, then they were right because they were the leadership and they used the democracy to vote us out. So there was nothing we could do. We had a guy like William Obenne at Extension Gunners. He was a pioneer of this. Mabwane is a qualified auditor. He's a qualified accountant. He wanted accountability. He wanted transparency. He wanted to see where the money was going and where the money was coming from. And to him, that was a blessing because he didn't have a hassle of counting money after the game. He didn't have a hassle of saying who reconciling tickets at the end of the game. To him, it was so convenient to him like that. He will only wait for a report and see how he divide his money and take it from there. But other guys, they wanted the money in their pockets. So those are the kind of administrators we have, and this has mired progress in our sport spectrum, in our sport space, in the sense that we have people who only look to enrich themselves. They're not there for the bigger interest or for the development of football per se. They're only there to serve their own interest, which is not good at all. It hurts our football.
Yeah. And then back to the e-ticketing case that you guys had. Are you saying you were somehow sabotaged, or it was just the office politics?
I will say it's a bit of both. Sometimes we can get sabotaged by someone because there is nothing that you are offering that person. So if someone comes with a better offer than what you are offering them, for sure, I will sabotage you because if I don't, I won't benefit. If I do, I'll benefit on the other side. And then if you look at the political side, yes, of course, there were politics. I remember there was a point where I received a call from one of the radio stations saying that apparently there were allegations that Mr. William Obenne was a shareholder in our company. And, I listened to him. I almost shed a tear during his interview with that gentleman. He said to him, I don't know those boys. The only time I met them was when they came to make a presentation. The other guy, even now, you can go to a register of companies, check the shareholders of those of that company. You will not find my name there. I liked what those guys are doing, and I'm a big fan of accountability. And my profession, it speaks to what these guys want to achieve in football. My profession speaks to the principle of transparency and accountability when we use money. And you know what they did? Because they realized that he was coming very strong and he had good intentions with this thing. As they alleged that he was a shareholder, they had to make other scandals for him so that, they can vote him out. They can make him to look like he's not fit for the office. And, the guys who are supporting us, they started to shy away, to chicken away now because, like I said, if it's 2 against 8, you can't win the battle at all. You just lost the battle altogether because you have to fight with those other 8 guys and it's only 2 guys. So at the end of the day, Mabwane, there was another scandal that involved him because they said he had borrowed money, did not bring back the money, but the constitution empowered him to borrow the money from the same guys. So you see, there was a political game, and who's more of to play politics? I'm not here for politics. I'm only a guy who wants to help and who only wants to see the good happening in football. I'm not a politician. I don't know even how to start politics. I only look at facts and I try to check boxes. If the boxes are not checked, I will say, no, to you, this is 1 out of 5. This is 2 out of 5. That's all I do. I don't know politics.
Yeah. Having been part of the, is it The name of your region again in Eli, the one Eko Parape.
Tsopong Regional Football Association.
Oh, Top Regional Association. And then
Football
also looking at Football Association. And then also looking at our national association. How effective would you say are both our national and regional associations?
It boils down to issues of governance. If you remember well, we have the NEC who sits at the bottom and they oversee everything that happens on the secretariat, and the secretariat is headed by the CEO, and then your secretariat, that's your operational side, and then you have regions. Regions, they have their committees. In those committees are made up of volunteers. The moment you mention a word volunteer, it says to you that person is volunteering his time, is volunteering his resource. So in that instance now, there's a lot of limitation in terms of executing the job at hand, limitation in terms of resources, limitation in terms of knowledge, limitation in terms of time, limitation in terms of what they have to bring on the table. And since we are volunteer, only people who have the heart, only people who have the passion, they will serve at those levels, because they have the passion for sport. But there's something that they are also lacking. Sometimes you confuse passion, love with the know-how. You think because you love something, you are passionate about something, therefore you should be able to execute, or you should be able to be put in a position of power. And that's how wrong we are. Passion alone can take you so far, because there will be a point where you'll be found wanting. So realize that at regions, as we go up again, or even at clubs, we lack what I call administrative skills. We lack the know-how, we lack the knowledge. In essence, we lack education of being administrators. And, because now our regions, most of them, they lack education. So it even cascade to our national executive committee, to a point where now, we're not supposed to address the secretariat on operational issues. You are going to have an NEC member answering about operational duties, answering about things that are happening in the office. While in essence, we need the CEO to be accountable to the operations, because he's always there on a daily basis. We look at the NEC, we're saying these guys are supposed to be driving the strategy of the BFA. They're supposed to show us the roadmap where we are headed. And then the CEO is in charge of executing the day-to-day operations of the association. And then you look at your regions, they're there as the face of the clubs at the region. But if they don't have the know-how of helping those clubs, how are we going to see our clubs now improving? How are we going to see our clubs now having or producing good administrators, producing good players? So when you look at all this, because of the political influence as well, it becomes bad. You end up losing good guys at regional level, because other guys are passionate, the other guys are knowledgeable, and you can. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. Someone who's knowledgeable, they don't usually argue that much. But someone who's very passionate, he will kill you. He will kill you for football. But someone who's knowledgeable will tell you, no, that guy should have done 1, 2, 3, and he will keep quiet. When he will keep on arguing, and he will look at you and he will leave you. And those are the people that we have in our football. They will argue with you. They will intimidate you to a point where you see like that they've reduced me to nothing. So you end up we end up losing people at capable people at regional level that could have helped to grow our football. And the same now cascades to the national executive level now, because we have lost capable people. We're gonna use whatever we have and have it at the top. So it says to you, we might have a good head, but the body there is a problem. So that's how our administration is, and that's how the signage of our football is. So it really needs a lot of introspection in order for us to come up with a good football system, I'll call it, from your NEC at the BFA to the secretariat, cascading down to the regions.
Okay. You mentioned the BFA. We know the AGM is coming. The NEC, there's an incoming NEC that's that's about to take the office. What are your thoughts about the current teams that you've seen? I've seen some of the people, but we've had interactions with somehow, and they seem like dodgy people. What's your overall thought about the three teams that are contesting for the BFA NEC?
To me, they're all good teams. You know, the team Lechiti, the team Sebeo, the team Malesu, they're all good teams. They have exceptional individuals in the cohorts. They have capable people in the cohorts. You know, they have shrewd administrators. Like you say, it's a mixture. You know, they will also have your dodgy guys, like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
They will also have your guys who you like. Why is this guy still here? You know, whom you feel maybe this guy has played his part and he still wants to come back. So all the teams, they have a mixture of those, and you know they've also shared their mandates as to what that they want to achieve with the BFA going forward, and they all have brilliant ideas. I must allude. You know, I can't say to you this is the best mandate, because you know the mandate can only be good when it's implemented. But when it's on paper, it's just a promise. I would say to you, they all have good promises. As is right now, all of them, their intentions are good. But in terms of implementation, that's where the problem is. And you try to look at the past, maybe your past 15 years. How much have you improved as football? Like I just gave you an example of youth development, that we have regressed, you know, in terms of youth development. You look at sponsorships, we've gained some sponsorships, we have lost some sponsorships. You look at the national team performances I'm speaking to currently right now, you know, it's deteriorating. You know, but previously it was, at some point it was okay. If you remember, while Bright once went to the CAF Confederations Cup, he didn't lose a single game until he lost to South Africa. That was a good run altogether, you know. And you know, we had Bob Butler. You know, we had our share with regards to national team. So, like I said to you, it's always up and down, up and down. But what is important to me is implementation of ideas. You know, I've realized that when people get into the office now, they forget the mandate. They throw it outside the window, and that you know, has hurt our football in the past. Because when you try to hold someone accountable, they will blame their predecessors. They will say, "This is what I found, and I was still correcting what this other guy did." But you know, you wonder, when you write your mandate right now, are you not? Have you not maybe scanned your environment? Have you not maybe done your situational analysis to say, this is what I found, and this is what I'm going to do? Because if you blame the other guy now, what have you done yourself? Were you there to be a cleaner? You know, such things. So they hate our football, they take our football backwards. But like I say, I believe all the teams, great individuals, charismatic, capable, shrewd administrators, but they also have their flaws.
And then also back to the book, you mentioned the media, the local media is not doing its part. We are somehow not reporting on issues of key interest. Usually we just or provide information that's on the surface. We do not dig deeper. Why do you say that?
You know, am I right or am I wrong?
No, I want to understand where the logic and the understanding came from.
Okay, good. You know, you can take any newspaper right now. I'll not mention a newspaper. You can take any newspaper right now, and you look at what they have written, and I can tell you right now. Yeah, you'll find newspapers talking about players. Huh? They'll talk about transfer of players, and you try to follow the story. Like you'll see that there are a lot of allegations in that. You can take a newspaper right now. They're talking about a particular administrator. You try to follow the story. You'll realize that the story is not balanced. So what I'm trying to say is, you know, as journalists, we need to guide our football. We need to talk of best practices. We have heard people saying they're going for benchmarking. And when these guys, they come back, we never interrogate them what they went there to benchmark for. We'll hear people say, no, we're going to Spain. In Spain, they use they use their money wisely. They manage to cut the debts of the clubs. And you're like, okay, what is the economy scale of Spain? What is the population of Spain? And what is our population? What is our economy of scale? What is our education level? What is our employment level? What is our employment rate? Our buying power? What is our average attendance at a football game? Before we go to Spain, why should we go to Spain, Taba? If you can answer all those questions. And have you interrogated your people why they're not going to the stadium? Have you seen a newspaper article talking about the deteriorating number of spectators at the game and saying, I have carried out a survey. I interviewed 20 people or 100 people. And here are my findings. And here is what these people are saying in order for us to improve our football. They say we need 1, 2, 3 things in place before we go to Spain. Because Valencia is playing against Barcelona, is playing against Leganés at Mestalla there. The stadium will be full. Whether Arsenal is losing and they're playing against West Brom, Emirates will be full. And we want those things. While we have our own problems here, while we have not spoken to our environment, we need to diagnose our environment before we can actually look for options of benchmarking. And then we need to say, these are our problems. How do we address our own problems? How do we come with our own solutions as Botswana Football? Not to say we'll get a solution from Spain. What language do they speak, those people? Do you know the language they speak there? Do you know how many languages they have there?
Yeah.
So we need to talk to ourselves first and say, here are our problems. And who started this problem? We started this problem the moment we allowed Mushurisanda Chiefs to increase salaries of players. And at the time, Mushurisanda Chiefs escalated salaries of players. They didn't have money to pay those players. We need to admit that problem. We are the ones who got ourselves in that debt. Why not correct that mistake first before we go to Spain and say, Spain, they have managed to recover and they are financially viable and their finances are good. There's a self-inflicted problem. Let's address our root problem here first and say, our football now, we are even. We have addressed the problem of salaries. How do we address problems of salaries? Can we really afford to pay our players? Does our economy allow us to do that before we go to Spain? You understand what I'm saying? And the media must guide our administrators. I call them the blind. They must guide the blinded administrators and present case studies. Say, deteriorating number of spectators. This is the study that I did. In South Africa, MTN, Vodacom, Telkom, they are able to work at the same time during a football match. BTC. Can we present that case and talk about that and guide our football to say, this is a case study of how we can harmonize our telecom companies to work together as sponsors of football. And that should be done by the media because we have realized that our administrators can't do that. But what do we do rather? We look at squabbles that are happening between administrators. We look at that Max has said something bad about the president. We'll say friends now turned into enemies. How will BFA say to Max, please bring back our car, contribute to the development of our football? How will that squabble build our football? You understand? Those stories, we don't need to show them on the newspapers, Taba. We need to show stories that will grow our football.
Yeah. So we focus much on petty issues, then what we won't bring the sports anywhere.
You said it.
Yeah. Then another problem that we seem to face, it's the incoming and outgoing of sponsorships in our local leagues, both at Premier and our regional first division and the lower ones. What model maybe you'd suggest we use in terms of acquiring and actually keeping sponsors for our leagues?
Where I'm seated, I'm sorry maybe to derail a bit. I always feel the solution to our football is socialism, the socialism principle, the socialism aspect, where, we look at our clubs, we look at our leagues, and we say, guys, it's not sustainable to have our Premier League champions walking away with $1 million, while number 16 will walk away with 50,000, and they go to first division. We need to look at an arrangement where we say we're going to give these clubs equal grants and put measures in place. Have a salary cap where we'd say all the players in the Premier League, they should earn a minimum of 3,000, a maximum of 5,000, just for example, because we're talking socialism. Socialism says to you, we need to share equally. The moment the other person shares more than you, that's the break point. That's where corruption starts. That's where greediness chips in. And we need to go to first division. Do the same thing, go to first division, and say, we're getting 30 million, for example, from BTC. In first division, we have 30 teams, for argument's sake. And we say each team is going to get $1 million. And we expect each team to pay each players 5,000 each a month. You understand? Each a month. Do you know what this will say to our football, Taba? It will say a team in Kasane, Plateau FC, they will retain their players. Their players will be happy to play for Plateau FC in Kasane because they know that when we get into first division, we're going to earn 2,000 pool. When we get into the Premier League, we're going to earn 5,000 pool. There's no need of me to go from Kasane to Gaborone and go and play for Galaxy or maybe for Gilport. Gilport, which will say to you, it's performance-based. If you're not winning, you're not getting anything. But you are saying, regardless of you winning or not winning, you're getting your standard fee. That's socialism. And it will even promote ownership of clubs from the community level. You'll have people in Kasane supporting the local team because they managed to retain all the stars in Kasane.
Yeah.
You understand? You'll have a township who's going to play in Kasane. They will find the players from Kasane playing for Plateau, not for township rollers. If township rollers will attract the players because it's a brand, let it be. But in terms of monetary factor, rollers and Plateau, in terms of paying players, there should not be a big difference there, if you understand what I'm saying. So socialism can be a solution to our football. And we also need to manage our sponsorships and say, oh, those guys who want to sponsor a football, here is our account, is our management account. Everyone wants to sponsor football. What sponsor Palapa Stars, what sponsor Murupula, what sponsor Township Rollers. Put your money here in this account. Remember, it's socialism because we want to share equally. We want our football to grow as a collective. And we say, all the clubs, because they say they make merchandise, they sell T-shirts, bottles to the supporters. Let's manage all the sales for first division, for Premier League in one account. If there are 12 teams, if you have made sale of merchandise, let each and every team get 1/12 of those sales. That's socialism. Equal. The only thing that will excite us is to going to watch players who are happy, players who are given good salaries, players who are on par. And the only thing that they will be playing for is pride, not mine. because they will have money. But now we're in a situation whereby we compete for money that we don't have. We compete for money that is not there, that we cannot afford to have. Could the players go to the ground they are owed? As we owe those players, we also owe transport, food, and stuff like that, Taba.
Yeah. Interesting thought, Mr. Wolf. And then you also in the book you had mentioned some of the few incidents, judicial incidents, tabo NATO, tabo police, tabo BDF. Would you say our football judiciary process is fair?
I compared it to the Animal Farm, if you have read the book properly.
Okay.
That you'd think because today is Molf versus Tabang. Under the same circumstances between Fox and Molf. Fox won that other time. Tabang is coming with the same grounds that Fox brought. Molf will win. And tomorrow, Fox with the same, with even worse circumstances. Tabang with better circumstances. Fox still prevails. Why? Because Fox is a brand. It's there. I spelled it out in the book.
Yeah.
I didn't dig deep on NATO's case and why I felt NATO was a defaulter. I painted the picture. I used the regulations on status and transfer of players by FIFA. I showed you what qualifies a player to be an amateur and what qualifies a player to be a professional player. I spoke of the periods that justifies that. I talk of BDF 11 case. I spoke of Notwani's case. Those things are there, and they are there in our eyes. Whether I'm wrong or I'm right, you have to look at the events itself and think deeply, not without any favoritism, with no fear, just with a cool mind, and ask yourself, was justice really justice there?
So, Morph, in closing, as a football administrator, as an analyst, where do we go from here? as a country.
You know what COVID did? COVID exposed us. It exposed us a lot, Tavao. It demonstrated to a lot of people that some people really they're in football for the passion of it. They're in football because they love it, but they don't understand football. And I'd ask this question, or I'd say this. Is our football really a business, Taba? If it is, we usually talk of commercialization. How can our football go for 6 months inactive? And you just asked me about sponsors. And we talk of commercialization. How do we go for 6 months, if at all, our football is business? Unless maybe if it's not the business for entrepreneurship, unless maybe it's just business of being busy, like you're like busy, like we're always busy. If you know what I'm saying, that's the business that we're talking about, but not the business of making money. How can football go for 6 months without anything tangible that we are saying to football spectators? As I'm talking to you now, when we come back, we would have lost a lot of players. We would have lost a lot of sponsors. A lot of people would have been lost to football. And I'll give you examples now. When we come back, Taba, even now, we're going to have a lot of social ills. Some players right now, they don't get paid. They need psychological support. Who's supporting them? No one. Some players now, who have nothing else to do, they will resort to drugs for entertainment. They will resort to wayward ways for entertainment. These players that are used to going to the ground in the afternoon to train, where do they go in the afternoon? Where do they get themselves tired? Some of them, as I'm speaking to you now, they're contemplating of going to steal something somewhere because they don't have money. If it's your ladies, if it's your boys, they are vulnerable to gender-based violence because they are seated at home, they are doing nothing. Because some of them, they have never been under this situation. Some of them, they have never been trained. Some of them, they have never been taught to be self-reliant, to be adaptive, to be innovative in every situation, to turn a negative situation into a positive situation. They have never been taught that. The only thing that they know, Tabang, is to kick football. And you say football is a business, and you leave these kids for 6 months without saying anything to them. Yet you say it's business. And you expect to get sponsors. And you expect people to believe you when you say football is a business. Is it really a business? It's not. You see that COVID-19, it exposed a lot of things. And it actually said those who thought they are in football for business, they had their thoughts wrong. They actually need to look at other things. Those who said they're in football to make football better, where are they? We need their thoughts now. We need them to deliver us to Jordan, to cross the river. Where are they now? They're quiet. 6 months. If it was a business, it was going to be closed down.
Mr. Wolf, I think there's a lot that we can talk about. Let me just release you. And where can people get the book? I got my copy. Where can people get the book so that they get to hear some of the things that you mentioned?
Yes, the book has a Facebook page. It's called Botswana Football, A Fool's Paradise. It's on Facebook, like I mentioned. And you can also email me at molefhiob@gmail, Molefhi with an H. You can also catch me on Facebook, Molefhi Kannemeyer Obenne. I have a Facebook profile. I also have a Twitter profile as well. That's where I'm reachable. Or you can contact me on my cell phone, 74305715, 74305715. And I have guys who are ready to deliver the book anytime. I have guys in Francistown. I have guys in Palap. Even when we are in Maung, Khansi, the next day, within 24 hours, you'll get the book delivered to you because I have good logistic guys who do transportation of the book. So wherever you are in the country, you can always contact me. And by the way, Mr. Tabang, I've also written a second book. So it's coming up on the 29th of October. So I'll be launching the second edition of that book.
All right. No, we'll definitely be waiting for the second book. This one was quite an interesting one. And Mr. Mof, let me release you and say thank you for joining me today. And hopefully we'll get you back Haradira preview the second book.
Thank you, Mr. Tabang, and have a lovely day, man.
Thank you, sir. Bye. So, guys, that's a wrap. Today we're talking to Mr. Molf, talking about his book, Botswana Football, A Fool's Paradise. So we're just doing a brief review about the book. Here it is, and what it entails. And if you would want the book, you can hit him up on the numbers that he said, and then I can just give you his contacts. So see you again for the next session. Bye.